Welcome to a hot take for the grocery industry with me, Sammar Farooqi, and global retail and grocery expert, Randy Evins. Randy, you recently published an article in the Supermarket News talking about three critical recommendations for the industry. The first one was about embracing the new mindset of the customer. Can you explain that?
Sure, Samar. Thanks for the opportunity. The first area of discussion was accepting the permanence of the digital shopper, and that basically means that over the years, grocery has been very slow to adopt digital processes and embrace digital grocery shopping, mostly because it's pretty expensive and sometimes doesn't leave a lot of margin at the end of the transaction. But the recent pandemic and some of the things that have taken place in the last year have I'll say permanently implemented digital grocery shopping across the globe. It's not going away. It's here to stay, and the industry needs to adapt to it.
No, absolutely, is here to stay. And the second pillar you talked about was becoming customer adaptive. How do organizations achieve this?
Well, customer adapted by definition means that I've got to turn myself from just customer centricity, you hear that buzzword a lot, to letting the customer drive everything, whether you're supply chain, store operations. It just has to be done in a way that you're ready to move, not only to move, but to predict what the customer wants to do next and to get there first. You have to, your customers are providing you with exceptional information about themselves, and you can use that information to come closer to them and let them drive the process versus suppliers, supply chain, whatever drove it in the past. You got to let the customer make the choices, and you've got to follow them to where they want to go.
Mhm. So, as a strategy that sounds very, very sensible, how do you actually practically achieve that connection to become customer adaptive?
There's a little bit of work to do. There's some investment from a technology perspective, but there's also it's really cultural. It's changing the mindset of all of your organization to focus again on that customer. So, Samar, talk to me about that. That's kind of a North American perspective. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what it's like in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, sure. In my region, I think you're seeing a similar transition from what you might say is a supply chain focus. So historically, grocery retail has focused on the supply side, and then over time has expanded its perspective on customer experience and loyalty, and developed a variety of formats to serve the customer. What you're seeing increasingly is very much, as you talked about, that customer adaptation happening through every lens of the key processes inside grocery retailing, particularly accelerated by the pandemic. So, for example, understanding customer preferences, making very specific recommendations to customers through digital channels that they can then drive fulfillment through accurate and reliable last mile fulfillment. And we're seeing a greater uptake in that. I mean, in the region specifically, for example, in the MENA region, we've seen some grocers reporting up to 700% increase in digital sales growth in the last 9 months, driven by the pandemic, of course. But they've also not only scaled their fulfillment, but also looked to scale how they adapt to the customer wishes and wants, and how that is translated across into procurement, purchasing, as well as assortment, both in store, for example, for curbside pickup scenarios, as well as what they can offer through online specials.
Yeah, that's it's almost word for word what we're seeing in North America as well. The other thing, the third element here is the concept of implementing a unified commerce approach. And what unified commerce feels a little buzzy, but what the point of it is, um, in the past, the industry delivered much of this in very segmented processes. There's an e-commerce strategy and a process. There's an in-store strategy and a process. there's supply chain, back office. They're all kind of lumped together in very, very siloed business processes. And to adapt to this new customer adaptive approach, unified commerce means that all aspects of the business start to focus exclusively on the shopper. So creating a personalized offer, understanding inventory necessary to support that, collectively using that information to negotiate with suppliers, smoothing out the supply chain, ensuring that the customer is never, ever, ever disappointed. An out of stock or an overstock or any kind of anomaly is no longer an acceptable component of this. You don't have to be perfect, but you got to be pretty much as close to it as possible.
Hmm. So, Randy, can I ask you as we conclude here, is would you have a top lesson learned in terms of perhaps where people have got these approaches wrong in the past 12 months and what they can do to avoid those pitfalls?
Well, I'll go to the supply chain. I think I'm not sure how it was in your area, but in the States, in North America, there was a massive amount of out of stocks across the store. And the lesson learned was the digital shopper exposed those out of stocks like never before. In the
Hmm.
past, they didn't even know they existed because they were, sitting there. They found it out at the as the customer left to go somewhere else. The digital shopper exposed that out of stock. So synchronization and collaboration across the entire supply chain, including suppliers, is another piece of this conversation that has to take place to ensure the shopper's getting what they're looking for and getting it when they want it.
Excellent insight. Thank you so much, Randy. So thank you, everyone. That was our hot take on grocery. Do subscribe and connect with us. You can see the QR code here on the screen to connect, and indeed also subscribe to my YouTube channel. So look forward to having more conversations with you, Randy, very soon.
Thanks, Sammar. It was great. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, everyone, stay safe and see you soon enough. Thank you.